Y'all, welcome back to Kentucky Fried Wargaming, where two guys who aren't qualified to talk about anything decide to talk about a game with hard math and chance. I'm Joe.
And I'm John.
And this week, we've floundered around about episode topics, thrown around a couple of things, and finally we decided to talk about a thing that we have been belaboring how to talk about for literally over a year. And we've decided the only way to approach this thing with any level of integrity or honesty is to just not talk about it intellectually at all. Rather, we're just going to talk about our own opinions and not back them up with anything because it's all subjective.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
and then we'll talk more later with like actual opinion, like facts and shit.
Figures.
We're going to talk
math.
Yeah, it's just going to be subjective for now.
And that's because we have been wanting to talk about 3D printing on the show forever, for quite a long time. But 3D printing is a topic that is a landmine of an issue. Just like everywhere you step, you could have a spicy take, a hot take, a terrible take. And I just, instead of trying to like hammer home a bunch of facts, we're just going to talk about why we personally like 3D printing. What brought us to it, and, you know, when we decide to 3D print versus when we personally choose to buy plastic. Because, you know, at least we could be honest about our own feelings. I don't have to back them up with anything.
Yeah, I don't have to explain shit.
Well, I mean, we kind of do. We have like a roughly 30 to 45 minute runtime we generally like to aim for.
All right.
Cool. Don't worry, we can pad it out, though, with hobby time and games played. All right, John, what you been up to? And talk real slow so we pad out the most time.
I've done a ton of shit. I've done a bunch of 3D printing. That's for sure.
Appropriate.
Many proxies for Marines for my Dark Angels.
That word's going to come up again.
Yeah. A lot of that. Painted some Slaves of Darkness. Printed some Slaves of Darkness stuff because I think the GW model looks like poopy. And I painted a bunch. So I built a lot of models too. Like, I guess that counts. And I read a bunch of books. And like I read like 2 whole books and like listened to an audiobook. Listened to a bunch of like stuff. And I started working on painting this Ballistus Dreadnought I got out of the Leviathan box.
Hey.
Yeah. And I got to play around with a new airbrush. A friend of mine let me borrow their airbrush, an Iowata Eclipse.
That's pretty nice. That's a great airbrush.
It is way better than the cheap one I've been using, and I am now sold on spending way more money than I currently have on an airbrush, because it made everything way easier, and I am about it. There's so much more I can do with this thing. It's gonna to the moon.
Pressure consistency especially hugely improved.
Yes, and also just like width and ability to like speed. Like I can go fast if I need to, which is great. Yeah,
that's pretty nice. And also, I know you played at least a game. I think you played more.
I did. Yeah, I played multiple games. So I played a Slave of Darkness game versus Skaven. I don't know if I talked about that last show. And I played a Dark Angels game versus Tyranids. And I played a Slaves of Darkness game versus Lumineth. So like our Slaves of Darkness game versus Lumineth, it went very good. I think we were really close.
It was actually shockingly close.
Yeah, we played against each other. It came down to battle tactics, which we'll talk about in a later time, but like it really just came down to battle tactics. Lumineth I don't think is an MPE army anymore, by the way. I think it's just a fun thing to play against. It's unique. But it's very interesting.
They stripped a lot of that out, which I like.
Yeah. My game versus Tyranids was the new Tyranid Codex, and I just used the Gladius detachment from the new Space Marines and took out the reroll part of Oath of Moment. And the game went pretty good. I think that I know a lot of people are mad that you lost the reroll to wins on Oath of Moment, but it's still like the force is still pretty good. I just made some mistakes in the game, and that's why I lost, because I was playing against a board control army, and I wasn't able to get a foothold soon enough. There's loss on objectives.
It happens.
But, like, that was my own mistake. I don't think it was, like, because, like, the army's bad. And then my game versus Skaven was a victory, And it was a challenging victory. It's with our editor, Tanner. And he kind of teaching him Skaven and the new battle pack, because I used to play Skaven all the time. And not a lot has changed from 2nd to 3rd edition of Skaven. And just really helped him crank out some like core concepts, and he did really good. And it was also a very close game. Really kind of came down to like one charge, and me succeeding that one charge, which gave me, again, battle tactics that put me ahead.
Who knew secondaries, they matter so much?
Yeah, secondaries and grand strategies in Age of Sigmar are actually more important than the primary in a lot of instances.
I have mixed feelings about that, but again, that's probably a topic for a whole other show.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we had more of a secondary, more akin to 40k system, but that's neither here nor there.
You should go watch, if you're playing Age of Sigmar, you should go watch the Warhammer Weekly episode about secondaries. It's pretty good.
I'm about halfway through that currently. So far, so good. I agree with many of the takes. I don't know if I necessarily share the fundamental issues for the same reasons, but like we end up at a similar place in terms of opinions. I just think a lot of opinions like that are sort of like competitively biased, but like it's
But I think it impacts like more garage play.
Yes.
Than I think people realize.
I just think rather than garage play, it manifests differently. Nor is it always in a way that like people have the language to discuss it, which can sometimes make it hard to kind of suss out. But another topic. It's good though. Big hobby time for you. Colossally fun.
Big ups on the hobby time.
Over here, I have been hammering away on Lumineth in terms of like the hobby printing, painting side. Prepping so many print files, processing so many print files, and I was getting ready for John and I's game, Slaves to Darkness versus Lumineth. So a lot of my time was prepping models, printing models, processing models, and then getting those models glued on bases, and then getting those bases with magnets on them so I could actually transport them to and from the game. Because without a magnet tray, these models would just like shake themselves apart. So I've got to magnet them somewhere. And I've also almost done with the 10-man unit of Alarith, the Stowed guys. I've just got to do some like blended airbrushing for a glow effect there, and then they will be totally done. After that, I don't know what I'll move on to next. I might do a unit of horses, or I might give myself a little treat of like a big hero, or maybe the battle cattle. As I look forward to the next group of hobby time. Also, I did get a game in besides that. I played my shop league for 40k. Brought Custodes, played Space Marines. Pre this book, it was Index. Cody at the shop is running Ultramarines, and what a game. I ended up winning, again, largely on objectives. But it was because by the time it was a bunch of Ultramarines and Gilliman with a knight. And I just ended up on all of the objectives but one with my Custodes. And he probably outkilled me because it was a whole lot of him like making his attack roll, reroll all hits, reroll all wounds, and double up. It's just, spicy. Very spicy. The terrain helped me a lot though. So another Custodes victory. This week though I fight Tau. And I don't know how that's gonna go. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know what kind of list they're running, but I've been told from other people at the shop that it's shocking how much crap they throw on the table. And like their list is just a bodies list, or at least it leans bodies. I won't say just. It leans heavy on bodies. And I don't know if I could kill through that fast enough to get points, but we'll see. I'm going to try. I'm going to give it my best go. And I'll report back next time. But now really just getting set up to do a little more 3D printing to keep the Lumineth army going. And then paint away. And I will be 3D printing pretty much that whole Lumineth army. Let's talk about why. All right, John. 3D printing. Disclaimer time at the top. These are only personal opinions.
Yes.
Purely subjective. No objective claims. We are not going to be doing cost analysis. There will be no charts. There will be no graphs. There will be no statistical analysis of market rates of like models sold per capita versus resin bottles sold per capita. Nothing. No long-winded morality play of the whether we should print or shouldn't print models either.
No sue us, Games Workshop. No cease and desist, please.
To print
Thank you.
or not to print? That is the question. I mean, it depends. That's my answer. It depends.
It really depends. Like, so like I'll go first.
Yeah, I guess like first let's talk about what drew you to 3D printing. I think that's the way to start.
So I'm not gonna lie. The first reason I signed up to start doing 3D printing was I was like, oh man, that's gonna be way cheaper. And I got it on sale. Like it was like $150 off of a Black Friday sale, and I was just like, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna save way more money.
Starting at the deep end. Okay.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm just gonna get it. It's like boom, done. But then I very quickly realized that I had spent more money on the printer and figuring out how to use the printer than I probably would have spent on just buying a new army. Like that's not even an exaggeration. That's just the reality. And I would say that the biggest reasons why I continue 3D printing is, like cost is part of it, but I wouldn't even say it's one of my biggest now. It's for variety and model. Being able to pick and choose what I want to put on the table, be plastic, or if I don't like that, getting something else and making my own things. And also logistics, right? Like if I have a game I want to go play and I want a model for that game, I can print it if I can't get it from GW, which more often than not is the case nowadays.
Ooh, yeah, we'll circle back to that one. That is one of mine.
Especially where we have like planned like quarterly events where we like have a big get together of a bunch of people. I don't want to make an order for something that's going to be here in 3 weeks. Give me a week to build it and it show up 2 days before the event.
3 weeks is awfully hopeful.
Yeah, but like that's a small example as opposed to like there are people in our play group that ordered something 6 months before an event to just not get it till 2 weeks after. Or to be honest, if it's even in stock to order it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Like so much is out of stock constantly from the Games Workshop store that in order to play the faction, unless you already have the models, good luck.
Yeah.
Or buy the FOMO box.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. For me, I similarly found, I don't know if I necessarily got into 3D printing as a money saver first. It was in the back of my head because of course it is.
Yeah.
Like everyone has heard the meme 3D printer go burr, as in like, haha, save so much money, burr. Like, yeah, it's a thing. It's in all the comment sections. It's not super helpful most of the time. But in my case, I got into 3D printing during COVID when I really couldn't play games. Like, let's be totally honest, like lockdown. There was no games to play. So I wanted to instead connect with like my armies and my models in a new way. And the idea of being able to, through a little bit of use of like CAD software, download an STL file, cut it apart, remix it however you want, take different stuff, clash them together, get your own unique bespoke miniatures that are just for you in whatever flavor or story or narrative you like, and then to like put a USB drive with that on it in a little machine, hit go, and then watch gray goo become a 3-dimensional thing. It was like magic to me. God, it just like tickled some little part of my brain deep down in there. And to be honest, like I still feel that to this day when I do like a particularly cool kit bash. And it's a way for my models to just look more me than just like something I bought off a shelf. Which was the primary thing that drove me. And to be honest, like I work in engineering in my regular life, like that whole field, in CAD software is everywhere. So anywhere you can actually flex your CAD muscles is just good. And I ain't gonna lie, also about the money on a lesser, sort of like a lesser amount, is the money does matter. Like saving money is good. And I have saved much money. But it's not quite as like one-to-one and easy as some like forums or YouTube videos would make you think it is.
And it's also not possible for everyone.
Yeah.
Like I don't mean to say that some people are disincluded from it, but there are some people who just don't have the space or like the time to learn, the desire to learn, or the ability to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't think 3D printing replaces plastic. I think it augments plastic, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Because I don't 3D print absolutely every model I play.
No.
And I think this is where you get into kind of some of the nuance of 3D printing, of like, when do you print versus when do you not? And like, for me, first and foremost, it is, do I think the model from the manufacturer, and let's use Games Workshop for an example, do I think the Games Workshop model is good? Do I think it is worth the money? If the answer to that is yes, I'm in.
Yes.
Like, I'm buying it. Okay? Like, if I want that for my army, it's a really cool miniature. No question, I'm in. Like the Beast Paw Quigosaur. I think that model is incredible. I could have printed a proxy, but I chose not to. Because it's just
most of my Slaves of Darkness army is just GW plastic. The only things that aren't is the Chaos Lord and Manticore, because I think their Manticore looks like crap. I think the Chaos Sorcerer looks great on there, but like the Manticore looks bad.
Poopy, yeah.
And the Varangard, because to be honest, I think the Varangard are overpriced. Like, the kit's really cool. I think the models look great, but like, it's $120 for 3 dudes on horses. I'm good.
They're not even big horses. They're the regular horses.
They're the size of like Chaos Knights. Like, it is absurd. Like, that is one of the things I just don't understand their pricing.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if there was just like a $68 or even $80 kit, I would just buy the box.
But it's
just buy it. But like,
yeah, I'm
not paying double that like for 3 horses.
Yeah, and price does that is another one if that will factor in for me.
Like, if I'm gonna spend that level of money, I'm buying Be'lakor. I'm buying like King Dad himself.
Angron.
I'm buying a knight. I'm buying like all that stuff. But like, not 3 horses, dude. Not when you want to buy multiple of them.
Yeah,
which kind of. That brings me, like, because I have all the same things as Joe with that, but also for me, it's like, how many of this thing am I going to need, right? Like, I play Imperial Guard. You need a lot of guardsmen. I don't want to spend $400 on infantry. That just gets ripped off the table. I'm just going, especially because, like, I play Krieg. So, like, I have Forge World models, the Kill Team models, and, like, buying other proxies. So I'm just going to print Kriegsmen. Like, or Krieg adjacent World War I looking troops. Like, I'm just going to do that. Like, World War I French style troops. Like, I don't know why I would do otherwise given the option. Because for me, especially if it's like an individual unit, I will just buy it in plastic. Or if I can get it like used stuff, I buy a ton of used stuff for plastic. But like individual characters, love them. I will probably always buy them in plastic if it's an option. Terrain pieces, there's lots of terrain pieces, especially the faction specific ones that look really good. And when I can find them, I get them. Endless Spells is another one. But like really, if I have to buy multiples of it, I'm really tempted to just not buy the kit.
Yeah. Sometimes the math works out so obvious I don't even think about it. Like, for example, I play Beast of Chaos. And, for example, the unit gores. Like, it gores. Do I like the look of the Games Workshop model? No. Okay. Am I going to need a lot of them? Absolutely. Am I going to spend hundreds of dollars on a poopy model? No, not when I can find a really, really cool stand-in proxy.
Because really, like, 3D printing is just enabling me to even play these factions. Like, otherwise I just wouldn't. Like, I would just, like, I think you were in that boat. Like, you played Custodes and Blood Angels as your primary factions for so long because you just liked the models. And couldn't stand to play the other factions that had shit models. Same thing with Age of Sigmar. Like, you played ogres in Age of Sigmar for how long? Simply because you were like,
Stonehorn looked good.
Stonehorn are good. I only need 5 of them.
And Sylvaneth. Sylvaneth models look good, so I played Sylvaneth. Like,
yeah.
I like pretty models. I won't play poopy models. My brain just don't do. And I did actually start playing Beasts of Chaos years ago when I first started AOS. But the models looked so rough, and I felt so terrible spending my money on them that I quit. I sold them all. And the only reason I'm buying them now, that I've bought the Battle Tome, that I am playing them now, is because I have a 3D printer that allows me to like connect with that force and that narrative in a cool new way and make me want to paint them and want to get them on a table.
Yeah. And like another thing about it for us is that we have a play group that allows it.
True.
Like, I think it was challenging at first because like a lot of us come from the older history where we thought all proxies, or like what used to be called ChinaCast, were like not good. Like for some reason we were all like, oh, that's terrible. Why would you do that? Because we used to feel that way of like, oh, well, you're not buying the actual miniatures, so like, why don't you support this game you like or the game store that you're playing in? Which is like an argument, but like, nah. Just nah. Like our group now, just most of us play with 3D printed models to some degree. Most of us play many different factions, and I don't think there's a person among us who hasn't bought a GW model. Like, we still buy the models, we'll still buy codexes, we'll still buy terrain, we'll still buy stuff at a local store. Like, if we try a new game, we go buy it from that local store. It's just many of us can't afford to spend $600-$700 on an army. When we got into this game, it was like $200. Like, the cost has tripled. So we adapted.
Yeah. I will say it does make projects possible that I don't think I would have done before. And this is where like we do touch on price, and I want to touch this very carefully. Because I think a lot of people on the internet say like, 3D print, save money. And you can. You very can. You really can.
Long term.
Long term. That's the key. So like, I'm not going to throw out numbers because again, it gets into data, but like, think of it this way. Your printer is going to cost some amount of money. Some amount of money. The amount of money your printer costs has to be spread out amongst all the minis you create. So you have to then add that to the resin cost of your mini. And that means the more minis you print, the more value you got out of your printer. Which means if you are into 3D printing as a hobby on its own, and you're interested in it, and you've got the space, and you've got the want and the gumption to go find STL files, to kit bash them together, to support them, to figure out how to troubleshoot your printer, and that's something you know you're going to do for quite a long time, and maybe even help your friends 3D print models and minis, holy crap, it's going to really work out for you. Really, really work out for you. For example, I just played John with this Lumineth army that I have been working on with non-GW sculpts that aren't just... There are some prints out there that are ripoffs, but now there's a lot of great sculptors who sculpt entirely unique things. And I'm using a Greek hoplite-inspired Lumineth set of models, and I was able to print that entire army together and have been hobbying on it for a little bit, and then take it to John's to play it. And that army, by GW pricing, would have cost me over $600. I printed it for far, 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 far less. Even including buying the STL files, including the resin, including whatever alcohol I used. But that's because I've been doing it a long time. It was efficient. I processed them quickly. My printers tuned in. And I have printed multiple armies for people. God, if I tried to do the math, I mean, my printer has paid for itself over 10 times over. more.
Yeah, but like
that's long time.
That's the key, right? Like if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I only play Salamanders. The only faction I play. I buy every Space Marine code that comes out. If they get a detachment book, I get it. Otherwise, I play Salamanders. I buy the models. I maybe buy one new kit every couple of months or whenever there's a new release cycle. Cool. Don't 3D print stuff.
At least don't get your 3D printer just for that. You're going to hit a wall fairly quickly.
Yeah, like if you're trying to save money and you play one faction and nothing else, like you don't do D&D or anything like that, like why? To 3D print a bunch more Marines, like that you already have. But if you are like us and you are hopelessly addicted to playing a ton of factions.
Or other games even.
Yeah. Get a printer if you want. If you want and are able. But like, don't do it because of money. Do it because you're going to get a shit ton of use out of it.
Yeah.
Like, I love my printer because I print stuff for 3 or 4 separate war games, plus D&D, plus I just print stuff to print stuff sometimes. Like, I've printed like busts or like small statues as like transitional pieces to like between forces, or if I'm in like a painting rut. Like, I use it as a tool, because that's really what you're investing in, is a tool to learn and to get good with. Not, yes, I would like to only spend $200 on a Space Marine army instead of $600. Because, like, I promise you, if you want to only print one army, only have one army, you are going to spend more printing it than you would have just buying it.
Yeah, that math won't work out for you.
Yeah. I think when I first got a printer, in my first year of printing, I wasted at least 2 bottles in failures.
I mean, and let's assume that's roughly $30 a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Roughly.
Yeah. And I can promise you, my printer was more than $200. So, like, and I have 2 of them. So, like,
yeah, it's a thing that comes in time. I don't know. I really enjoy 3D printing, and I advocate for it as a tool, especially as games get more expensive, and as, like, it is hard to necessarily want your whole gaming group to, like, keep up with the hobby budget, and to, you know, also pay their bills and buy groceries. It's rough, and I really don't want anyone in my play group to feel like I don't have the money to play this game with anyone. And there's something I can do about it with the 3D printer, because I have the space and the skill and the interest. And if you're in that case, cool. It's great. It will help you out. It'll help your group out. Or maybe the group wants to split the cost. And again, then the math changes. Like, if there are 5 people in a gaming group and one of them has room and interest for a printer, and the others just don't want to deal with it, but just want cool stuff printed, maybe you come to an agreement. Hey, let's split the cost 5 ways. Boom. Mm-hmm. Now you get a printer, and if someone's willing to man that printer and get good at it, great. Now the math be mathin'. Now we're working.
Yeah. Because really, like, if I can sum up my opinions on 3D printer and like what it should do for the gaming community, is I think that looking at it individualistically is the wrong way, right? Like, yes, it's great for me, and that's cool. But I have gotten way more people back into this game with 3D printing, and I've been able to get people continuing to play games with me with 3D printing, that I can be, like, to be honest, if this would have came out when I was in, like, middle school, imagine, like, a game club for kids that want to learn how to play this game. Oh. If you, like, when I started playing this game when I was in middle school. If I did that nowadays, no way. Impossible. Too expensive. But if you could get a 3D printer, and you were like a teacher, and you 3D print factions, like a 500-point force for each of those kids in your class, and then they play with each other, like in this club, then boom. It's great. It's a fantastic tool. It builds community, allows for stuff, and like they will play the game. And I promise you that when people play the game, they want to buy the stuff. Mm-hmm. They buy the novels. They buy, like, paint. They buy terrain. They might even buy a cool new model that came out, even though they could 3D print one, because it's not the exact same.
I say, looking at my cool Vingorian Lord behind me that has 3D printed conversion bits, but I bought a Vingorian Lord.
Yeah, Like, the amount that I use my printer for just conversions on actual models is also pretty high. Like, this is not an either-or situation. It can be both. You can just buy plastic and print, and you can do it for your friends, and you guys can have a great time.
Ape together, strong.
Ape together strong.
It always
Ape together play more Warhammer.
It always circles back to ape together strong.
It's true.
God, they're
You
gonna.
guys still gotta get that tattoo.
Yes. God, ape together strong tramp stamps.
I'm about it.
It's gonna be awesome. Yeah, y'all, like, this is one of those things that if we're gonna talk about it, we really want to just talk about it honestly about where we're at with our opinions and what brought us to them. And share those for people who are considering getting 3D printers in response to various things going on in the wargaming community. One of which I've seen is price, another is like the difficulty getting models. 3 is the time it takes to update models. And really, our worry was that some people might get into this and not really know what they're running into. And so we wanted to make this video as an honest sort of discussion of our own opinions. So if you are someone in that sort of boat and you're considering it, you can either make the decision of, oh, that's actually not for me, and save your money and your effort and your time. Or, hey, it's really for you. Cool. Run towards it, but here's some expectations.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is more room for discussion on this topic.
Yes.
And if y'all are interested, we would be willing to talk about more, but carefully.
Yeah, and if you have something specifically with 3D printing you want us to cover, or you just want a quick answer on, put it below in the comments. Reach out to us on Twitter. Our email's down there. Yada, yada, yada. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, whole 9 yards. But like, for real though, we are willing to just have a conversation with you about 3D printing, even if you just want to have it like in our DMs. Like, that's cool too. You don't have to do it publicly.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Algorithm be damned.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about the algorithm. I really just want more people to enjoy the hobby that I've enjoyed for most of my life. So.
Mm-hmm. And otherwise, we'll be working on some more lore videos over here on the back end.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Also, tell us which one of those you want, because we're like just flying blind.
We are now into the weird zone where we could pick up almost any faction. So please, if you want one earlier than the others, say it so we don't have to debate where they should go in order.
Yeah.
Because any of them that is requested by someone runs to the front. Makes our jobs much easier. Which, for now, has been all of our opinions, bona fide and Kentucky Fried. We'll see y'all in the next one.